methodologies. Any introductory section is there, or shall I start directly?
No, ma'am. One welcome address is there, ma'am.
Yeah, okay.
Ma'am, shall I start, ma'am?
Yes, ma'am. Start.
To acquire knowledge, one must study, but to acquire wisdom, one must observe. A very good evening to the esteemed guests and the faculties present here. The Department of Accounting and Finance at SRM Institute of Science and Technology, Ramapuram campus, is pleased to present a comprehensive national level 3-week research methodology course. This course is meticulously designed to provide participants with essential knowledge and skills in research techniques, empowering them to conduct high quality academic and industry oriented research. The program targets academicians, research scholars, professionals, and students who aspire to enhance their research capabilities in the field of finance, accounting, and allied disciplines. Let's commence the session with Tamil Taivarthu.
கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராரும் மதனமென திகழ்வரத கண்டனிதில் எக்கணமும் அதில் சிறந்த நாவிடதன் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு திரை முதலும் தரித்தனரும் இலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைக்குலகும் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் வணங்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறப்பியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்ந்ததுமே வாழ்ந்ததுமே வாழ்ந்ததுமே.
Thank you, ma'am. Now, I request Dr. V. Deepa, ma'am, our program coordinator at Department of Accounting and Finance, to present the welcome address.
Yes. Thank you, ma'am. And it gives me immense pleasure to extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to all of you on behalf of the Department of Commerce, Accounting and Finance, SRM Institute of Science and Humanities, Ramapuram campus, as we kick off this national level 3 weeks research methodology course. At the outset, I would like to express my deep gratitude to the management for their unwearying support in organizing this important event. I extend my sincere thanks to our respected Dean of Faculty of Science and Humanities, Dr. Sundar, and Vice Principal of Administration, Dr. J. Dilipan, whose guidance and encouragement have been instrumental in making this event possible. Though she is not able to join us in person today, I would also like to acknowledge and welcome our esteemed Head of Department of Commerce, Dr. Chitra Srinivasan, in absentia. Her leadership continues to inspire us. We strive for academic excellence. We are truly honored to have with us today as our chief guest Dr. M. Kaveri, Assistant Professor, Department of Corporate Secretaryship at AM Jain College. Dr. Kaveri, thank you for your gracing this occasion and for being a part of this important initiative. We eagerly look forward to your insight on today's topic and overview of research methodology. Your expertise will certainly set a valuable foundation for the rest of this course. Welcome you, ma'am.
Thank you.
I would also like to take this opportunity to warmly welcome all the participants, including the faculty members and research scholars from SRM, as our esteemed colleagues, research scholars, and postgraduate students from other colleges. Your presence here today underscores your commitment to research and academic growth. And I am confident that this course will be an enriching experience for all of us. Once again, thank you all for your presence, and I wish everyone to productive and insightful session ahead. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. I request Dr. Alamilna to introduce the guest for the session.
Good evening, all. It gives me an immense pleasure to introduce our today's resource person, Dr. Kaveri ma'am, to mention about her few responsibilities and services. She served as an Anna University representative. She served as an external examiner for Business Application Software Lab. She served as an external examiner for Project Vivavos for MBA department. She served as an examiner for paper validation for MBA department. She also served as a placement cell member, cultural committee member, co-convener of international conference, overall discipline coordinator, IQAC member, vice president of Students Welfare Council, and organized a seminar titled Stock Trading for Beginners. And there are various services held at the department level, whereas she served as a coordinator for state level management meet, Challengea, and she served as a coordinator for national conference conducted by BBA department. And she also served as a project coordinator, attendance in charge, timetable in charge, discipline committee member, department exam cell in charge, farewell coordinator, and class in charge. In other academic activities, she worked as a guest lecturer in the Department of Management Studies for IGNOW. She served as an examiner for paper validation for MBA department under Anna University, and she served as a question paper setter and examiner for paper evaluator in MBA department. She guided around 100 students of MBA under Anna University and guided around 100 students of BBA under Madras University. And she also guided 10 students of MBA under IGNOW Distance Education and guided more than 100 students of BCom CS under University of Madras. She presented book papers in various national and international conferences, and her area of specialization is human resources management. Then she also published papers in various focus and UGC chair-listed journals and other journals. Presently, she is working as an assistant professor in AM Jain College and acting as a facilitator too. Thank you so much, ma'am, for accepting our invite.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Yes,
Ma'am, we
ma'am.
would like you to start with the session today, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am. Shall I start the session now? So, I'm Dr. Kaveri, Assistant Professor and Facilitator, the Department of Commerce, Corporate Secretaryship, Agarchan Monmouth Jain College, Chennai. Before beginning the session, I would like to take the moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to the Department of Commerce, Accounting and Finance, SRM School of Science and Humanities, Chennai, for giving me the opportunity to be a part of this national level 3 weeks research methodology course. It is truly an honor to be here, and I look forward to share my insights and learn from each other during this session. Thank you once again for your warm welcome and for the opportunity to contribute my learnings on research methodology. Let us begin the session with an introduction. Yes. 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 What is research? So I am going to cover the first session, which is overview of research methodology. So before entering the overview, first I will tell about what is research. Research is nothing but It is a research, searching again and again, research. So it is a systematic plan or approach used in conducting the research. And it is a careful investigation for new facts in any branch of knowledge which outlines the processes and techniques the researcher used to search, investigate, gather, analyze, present, and interpret the data to answer the research question. It provides a blueprint for the study, ensuring the reliability and validity of the study. So, why we need research? So, what is the reason for studying the research by the academicians, students, and as well as the research scholar? So, it is essential for the students, scholars, and academicians because it provides a systematic approach to conduct a rigorous, reliable, and ethical studies. It also ensures the credibility of findings, enabling the meaningful contributions to knowledge and informed decision making in their respective fields. And where we can apply this research? So we can apply this research anywhere and everywhere. So we can apply this research to the academic research, to do our theses and PhD dissertations, as well as to publish the papers. We can do your research. And for marketing research, so it is applied in marketing research. For example, we can do a consumer behavior analysis and product development analysis, and it is used in social science research to understand the social behavior and cultural trends of the people. And we can use this in healthcare and medical research and in a laboratory, and we can use this in business and management to understand the behavior of the employees, performance of the employees, and satisfaction of the employees, and so on. And we can use this in educational research to understand or to develop our curriculum and to understand the students behavior. And we can use this in technology and innovation to update the technology, legal and ethical research, and we can use this in environmental and sustainability studies. And finally, we can use this in finance and economics to know the financial market analysis, and also that we can assess the risk involved in investing in a shares or commodities or in any other funds. Okay, so we can apply this research anywhere, everywhere. Okay, so where we need to analyze or where we need to analyze and observe the problem and also give solutions to the problem, we can apply this research. And my part is I'm going to tell about the overview of research methodology. It's a great opportunity for me to define and to explore everything about the research methodology, because this research methodology part is a systematic investigation of a problem, and it has so many parts. The starting with the observation, problem identification, research question and research objective, research design, identification of variables, data collection method, instrumental design, scaling, population and sample size determination, as well as choosing the sample technique and hypothesis setting, and finally tools used for data analysis. So this research methodology part is very, very important when you are undergoing your research. So starting with the observation. So what is observation? So this observation is the starting point of the research process, and it is significant for the researcher to observe the chosen area to understand the undergoing problems or issues in that specific area. So observation is a very, very important part. Before anyone who are undergoing a research, they have to observe the things in the specific area which is chosen by them. So then what is called observation? It involves close examination of an issue, phenomenon, or behavior to gather the preliminary data or insight. So here the researcher identifies the patterns or problems that may need further investigation, which means by analyzing by observing the things in that particular area, the researcher will collect what are the problems prevailing in that particular area. The problems are collected by the researcher to find out which is the major problem which affects the particular area. Okay, and this is critical for shaping the research focus. For example, I have given here 4 examples: the classroom observation, retail store observation, hospital observation, and observation of children's play behavior. So For the first one, the classroom observation. When you are a researcher and you are going to study about the student engagement in the classroom, so here the researcher observes how teachers and students interact in the classroom to find out what are the factors affecting the students engagement in classroom. And if you take the retail store observation, so if a study is based on studying the shopping habits of the consumer or shopping habits of the customer, so being a marketer, if you are undergoing a research, means you have to observe the consumer behavior in the retail store. Okay, and if it is a hospital observation, means so here the study is based on to study the efficiency and patient's care in emergency room, means your observation is in the emergency room and you are going to observe what are the factors that affects the efficiency and patient care in the emergency room. Like that, here that after choosing the particular area, you have to observe the factors or problems affecting that particular area is called as what? Observation. So once the researcher has observed the problem, he has to define the problem, he has to reframe the retune the problem. Okay, that is called as what? Problem definition. So here the once observations are made, the next step is to pinpoint the specific problem that needs to be addressed, because through observation you have identified lot of problems and you have to choose here the specific major problem that need to be addressed, which has to be solved immediately in that particular area. Okay, that is called as what? Problem identification. So through observation, the researcher has to identify the various problems that are existing in that specific area. Based on the researcher has to identify the major problem that affects the entire process. Then what is called then problem identification? The problem identification helps in narrowing down the research focus, because it ensures the study is directed towards solving a particular issue or answering a specific question. So here, let me take the previous example, the classroom observation, the retail store observation, and as well as the hospital observation. Okay, so if it is a classroom observation, how you define the problem? What factors contribute to low student engagement in the classroom? So this is the problem you have identified in the classroom observation. Okay, and if you are having a retail store observation, so here how can the store layout and product placement can be improved to increase the sales? And if it is here hospital observation, what process improvements can reduce the can reduce the patient engagement or patient queuing in that emergency room. So like this, you have to specify and narrow down the problem of your research study. That is called as what? Problem identification. So if you are identifying a proper problem, and if you are narrowing down the problem or specifying the problem in a proper way or defining the problem in a proper way, here the half of the solution for your thesis you are getting the half of the solution for your thesis in this stage itself, because the problem identification is the very, very significant factor, very significant part in the research methodology. So after identifying the problem, what is the next one? You have to frame the research question. Okay, so here the researcher formulates one or more research questions. These questions guide the investigation and determine the type of data to be collected. A well-defined research question is crucial for achieving the objectives of the study. So because based on these research question only, we are going to frame the objective of your study. Okay, so here the research question should be in a well-defined manner. How to frame the research question? Taking the same example. Okay, so if it is a classroom environment and if you are undertaking a study, the student engagement in the classroom, how the research question has been framed is, how do teaching methods and classroom environment affect student engagement and participation in the classroom? This is the way you have to frame the research question. And if it is a retail store, your example or your thesis is based on the retail store, and to understand the consumer behavior means how to frame the research question. What factors influence the purchasing decisions of the customer at retail store, and how does store layout and product placement impact the sales? So here you are framing two research questions. The first one is, which is a common one, what factors influence the purchasing decisions of the customers at retail store. And apart from that, some other things also influence the consumer buying behavior or consumer buying habit at the retail store, which is nothing but the store layout and product placement. Okay, that also impact the sales of the customer. Okay, so that is why we are framed here two research question. And the third one, what are the factors affecting the long patient waiting time in the hospital emergency room? Okay, that is the common thing which is framed for all the things. Okay, and the second one is what process improvements can streamline the patient care delivery. So apart from the factors affecting here, what process improvements can streamline the patient care delivery, because our problem is the patients are standing in a queue and they are not getting the proper treatment in the emergency room. So here we have to add one more research question to find out a proper solution for the queuing in an emergency room. Okay, so this is the way you have to frame the research question. Yes, once again. Yes. The next one is research objective. So after framing the research question, the next step you have to frame the research objective. So it's a chain process. First thing is we are identifying, so we are observing the particular area, and in that particular area we have identified the problems. Many problems are in that. Which is the major problem? That problem we have to choose. Okay, and after choosing the major problem, based on that major problem, that means problem identified, we have to frame the research question, and based on that research question we have to frame the research objective. Okay, so this research objective, based on this research objective only, we are going to frame the questionnaire, and we are going to frame the hypothesis, and we are going to analyze the problem. Finally, we are going to find the solutions for the problem. So apart from anything, the research objective is the very, very important part in the research methodology. How to frame the research objective? It is clear, this research objective clearly outlines what the study aims to accomplish, that you all know. It provides a clear direction and focus for the study, guiding the researcher throughout the process. As I said, this research objective is a chain process. Based on this, we are going to frame the research question, and based on this, we are going to set the hypothesis, and then we are going to analyze the thing, and finally we are going to find solutions for that. Okay, so it will travel throughout the research process, and it outlines the scope of the study by indicating which aspect of broader topic will be explored, and it helps in formulating specific hypothesis. As I said, based on this research objective only, we are going to frame the hypothesis, and it guides what data need to be collected. Okay, because the objective is specific, we can able to identify who are all our respondents. If the respondents are specific, we can easily identify what data need to be collected and from whom it has to be collected. Okay, ensuring that only the relevant information is gathered. And how the research objective should be? It should be specific, it should be measurable, and it has to be very, very important thing. It should be achievable. We can frame any kind of research objective, but if it is not a achievable one, means we couldn't able to give solutions for the problem. So our research objective should be a achievable one and realistic, and it has to be framed in a timely manner. Okay, so these are the very important thing we have to keep in mind while framing the research objective. And then after framing the research objective, coming to the important part, which is research design. Okay, so while making the observation itself, we came to know what type of research study ours is. Okay, so here we have to fix what type of research study ours is, which is the research design. Okay, so this research design refers to the blueprint or strategy for conducting the study. It ensures that the research problem is addressed effectively, and that the data collection and analysis are aligned with the research objective. The design ensures that the research process is systematic and maximize the validity and reliability of the results. Okay, so because through this research design only, you are going to tell what type of research is yours, whether it is a descriptive research or experimental study or cause and effect relationship research, or you are going to do a correlation research, or you are going to do a qualitative or quantitative research. So here you have to fix what type of research design is yours. So as I said, there are so many types of research design, which is the first one is what? The exploratory research design. So this exploratory research design is used to investigate the problems that are not clearly defined and very particular when we have a little information about the problem which you have chosen for the study. For example, so understanding the adoption of electric vehicles among customers. So the electric vehicles, now only it has been introduced and the customers are using, very few customers are there for the electric vehicles, and you are having very little information for this electric vehicle to understand the consumer behavior towards the electric vehicle. Then the study is called as a exploratory research design. Okay, and the second one is very very simple one, which is descriptive research design. Okay, which is just like describing the characteristics of the population, situation, or phenomenon. That is called as what? Descriptive research design. Okay, and the third one is causal research design. The name itself says it defines the cause and effect relationship between the variables. Okay, so here if you want to study the impact of the teaching methodology on student performance, here the teaching methodology is a cause and the student performance is the effect. That is called as what? The causal research design. And the cross sectional research design. So this is also a simple one. If you want to collect data from the population at a single point of time to draw the inferences, we can use a cross sectional research design. Okay, and then for example, if you want to assess the job satisfaction among the employees in a particular company, you are going to collect what are the factors that affects the job satisfaction of the employees. It's a very simple research design, which is cross sectional research design. And then the next one is longitudinal research design. So this to study the changes or trends in the population over an extended period, or to study the trends or fluctuations in the stock market or share market, we can use this longitudinal research design. Which means if you want to study the changes in the previous period and what has to be forecasted in the future, we can use this longitudinal research design. That means if you want to do a trend analysis. The next one is experimental research design. Okay, so this is also used to find out the cause and effect relationship, but in a closed room environment. That is called as what? Experimental research design. Okay, so the experimental research design, for example, if you want to test the effectiveness of your new medications to the patients, or if you want to test the different colors of genes to know the customer preferences or the customer satisfaction towards it, you have to change the color of the genes in a closed environment, and you have to study the consumer or customer preferences towards it. Okay, so anything if you are studying in a closed environment, you can go for a experimental research design. Or if you want to know the same thing, the teaching methodology and the students performance in a closed environment by taking one or two classroom, means pre-study and post-study, you can do that in that also. And the next one is what? Very simple thing, the correlational research design, to identify the relationship between the two or more variables. If you are increasing the salary to the employees, whether the performance also increased, to know that you can do a correlation research design. And the last one is quasi experimental research design. So this is also used to explore the cause and effect relationship, but without random assignment to the groups. That is called as quasi experimental research design. So you are having so many research designs according to your study, according to the problem chosen by you, what type of research design you are going to adapt. So this has to be determined by the researcher. So because based on this research design only, we are going to collect the data, we are going to fix the population, and we are going to fix the sample size. So the research design is also a very very important part in the research methodology. And after identifying the research design, the next one is identification of variables. So usually the people may know there are two variables. One is what? The dependent variable, and another one is what? Independent variable. So what is dependent, independent? I think you may all know the teaching methodology. The same example I have given here, the effectiveness of new teaching method on students' performance. So here the teaching method is a independent variable, the student performance is a dependent variable. So here the variables are the characteristics or factors that can change or vary and may influence the outcome of the research. So here the identification and classification of variables are crucial for the success of the research, because based on these variables only we have to fix the hypothesis. Because for fixing the hypothesis, for framing the hypothesis, the variables are very much needed, and based on that only we have to fix the, or we have to choose the tools which are going to used for analysis. So here the framing the variables also a crucial part in the research. So the types of variables based on the previous example. Okay, so based on the previous example, the effectiveness of new teaching methodology on students' performance. Here, these are the various types of variables. Okay, so I will explain this with the same example. Okay, so here, which is called as independent variable. As I said, the independent variable is a teaching methodology. Okay, so here, this is the example, effectiveness of new teaching method on students' performance. So here the independent variable is the teaching methodology. So the way you are changing the teaching methodology will affect the student engagement or student performance in the classroom. So here the student performance is the, student engagement is the dependent variable. Okay, then what is called control variable? The variable which kept constant to prevent the interferences. That is called as what? Controlled variable. For example, you can say the subject being taught. Here I said only about the teaching methodology. Here I didn't mention what is the subject taught in the classroom. So here the subject being taught, the classroom size, the classroom environment, which are all called as a controlled variable. So we can control it, we can change the subject, we can change the classroom, we can change the size. So that is called as what? The control variables. And coming to the fourth one, the extraneous variable. So here what is called extraneous variable, which is a hidden variable that could influence the results. Here which is called as hidden variables, the teaching personality, the personality having by the teacher, and as well as the student motivation. We couldn't able to find out how many students are very much interested in learning the new teaching methodology. Okay, so here the student motivation in learning the class, in learning the subject. So these are all called as the extraneous variables. And coming to the next one, confronting variables. So what is called confounding variables, which is the variables that vary with the independent variable, is called as what? The confounding variable. For example, here the teacher's experience. Because while teaching in the class, it is if it is a experimental study, means we are going to do it for 3 months. Okay, the first month the of the teachers is different. For the second month, the experience of the teachers is different. Okay, so here the teacher's experience is a confounding variable which may vary with the independent variable. And coming to the next one, moderating variable. So what is called, the name itself, this is what is called moderating variable, which influences the strength or direction of the relationship between the independent and dependent variable. So the same thing what I said here for the extraneous variable, here also the moderated variable is the student motivation. We can keep the student motivation as a moderated variable, and we can find the relationship between the independent and dependent variable by applying the Sobel test. Okay, the next one is the mediator variable. The mediator variable that explain why or how the independent variable affects the dependent variable. So here the mediating variable is the student engagement. Okay, if the students are very much engaged in the class, their performance will get increased. If the students are not having that much interest in the class, their performance will decrease. Apart from the teaching methodology, the student engagement in the classroom also affects their students' performance. So here the student engagement is considered as a mediator variable. And coming to the next one, intervening variable. So here the variables that occurs between the independent and dependent variable, but that not directly measured, which is not directly measured, is called as a intervening variable. So this intervening variable is used when you are conducting an experimental study. So the same thing, the teaching methodology, if you are conducting in a closed environment, you can apply so many new teaching methodologies. For example, the student centric method, you can apply that. You can apply the flipped classroom way of teaching methodology, collaborative learning of teaching methodology, and you can give quiz to the students, and you can have a case based learning. So these are all the different teaching methodologies you are applying in the classroom. Okay, and these are all considered as a intervening variable when you are changing the teaching methodology by applying various student centric method, and what is the performance of the students. Okay, how it affect the performance of the students, that is called as what? Intervening variable. This intervening variable is only used in the experimental research design. And finally, demographic variables. As you all know, the demographic variables is here. Consumers are the respondents' age, gender, income, educational qualification, marital status. So these are all the demographic variables. Okay. So finally, we are having 9 types of variables. Okay. So here, but usually the researchers will use only 2 variables. One is independent variable, the dependent variable, and apart from that, they can go for a mediator variable. Okay, to understand the by applying various teaching methodology, if the students are having engagement, whether it affects the students' performance, like that, they can change their study in a different way. And if you are going for a if you are not collecting the data from different schools to know understand the teaching methodologies, and if you are conducting the same in a closed environment, you can go for a intervening variables, like that, based on the research design. Again, I'm telling you, based on the research design, you have to fix the variables based on the research problem identified, based on the factors you have chosen, and based on the research. This is everything is a chain process. Based on all these, what I said till now, all these you have to fix the variables of your study. And after fixing the variables, you have to define the data collection method. Okay, the method you are adapting to collect the data. So this step involves selecting the appropriate method for gathering the data, such as you can use survey method. So here I have given the 2 types of data. Yeah, as you all know, the primary data and then the secondary data. Okay, so here the choice of the data collection method depends on the research, as I said, the research design. So it's a chain process. Okay, so the choice of the method depends on the research design and the nature of the research question. The question you are choosing, the objective you are fixing, the design you are selecting, the variables you are framing, and based on that, the data collection method will be determined. Okay, so here the data collection method is divided into 2. One is primary data collection, the second one is secondary data collection. So secondary data collection is a very simple one, which is we are collecting the data from the secondary sources, from the financial report, sales report, government report, and from different websites, the theses, paper presentations, or from conferences, or from journals. Okay, the same thing, or from the internet, you are collecting the secondary data, and based on the historical data, you are going to define, or you are going to give solutions to the problem. So that is called a secondary data collection. And primary data collection, if you are going to collect the fresh data from the customers or from the respondents, that is called as what? The primary data collection method. And the primary data collection, there are so many types of primary data. So here I have given very simple things. The first one is survey. Survey is nothing but a detailed method of collecting the data with multiple choice questions, or with multiple questions, is called as what? The survey method. For example, if you are conducting the survey, or whether it is a online or offline survey, to know about the customer satisfaction with respect to a specific product. Okay, so that time you can use the survey method. And the polling method. Okay, so here if you want to collect a very simple 2 which is restricted to 2 to 3 questions, or 1 to 3 questions, a quick simple method of collecting the data, which is called as the polling method. For example, if you want to know whether the people prefer the coffee or tea, okay, so only 2 choices are there. Only two questions are there. Okay, only one question is there, which is whether the people prefer the coffee or tea. For this, you can go for a polling method. And if you want to collect a multiple questions to have a detailed study, then you have to adapt the survey method. And the third one is interview method. Okay, so it is here collecting data through a direct or face-to-face from the respondents is called as what? Interview method. And the Delphi technique. So if you want to collect a data from the experts, so some problems can be defined only by the experts and it can be explained only by the expert. For that type of problem, you can choose a Delphi technique. And focus group. Okay, so if you want to collect data, for example, before that I will tell you the example. Okay, for example, to know the consumer behavior towards green products. So here the focus groups are only the consumers who are using the green products. That is called as what? Focus group. Okay, for such a study, you can adapt the focus group. So these are the different ways of collecting the data. Apart from that, the experimental data collection is there. Based on the case studies, you can collect the data, and based on the observation checklist, you can collect the data. But these are the very simple things, and it is used anyway. Okay, the next one is instrumental design and scaling. After framing the data collection method, you have to frame the questionnaire. Okay, so here the questionnaire is framed after framing the objective. Okay, so while framing the objective, based on that objective, it is I'm suggesting you can prepare the questionnaire that time itself. It is easy for you to frame other things. Okay, so after finalizing the data collection method or after framing the objective, the researcher has to develop the tools needed to collect the data. So the tools, as I said, so these are the tools, the survey. So here you are fixing whether we are collecting the data through questionnaire or through polling or through interview or through Delphi technique. If it is Delphi technique or focus group also, we have to prepare the questionnaire. Okay, so here, such as questionnaire, interview or experimental setup, the design of these instruments must be a valid one, reliable, to ensure the accuracy of the data collection. So it is designed by adapting a different scaling techniques. So while framing the questionnaire, here you have to understand, here you have to learn the scaling techniques, because based on that scaling, again I'm telling, based on that scaling techniques only, you are going to frame the hypothesis and you are going to fix the tools which you are going to analyze the data. So here, what is called scaling? It refers to the process of measuring and assigning numerical values to qualitative attributes, allowing for systematic comparison and analysis. So it often involves creating a scale to quantify variables like attitudes, opinions, and behaviors. Okay, so with this slide, you can easily understand what is called scaling. So the scaling is divided into four. One is nominal scale, ordinal scale, interval scale, and ratio scale. What is called nominal scale? Which is very simple, a categorical scale. If you are framing the question, the gender, the male and female, or to know which department the student belongs to, you are going to frame the question with different departments, whether they are belonging to A&F department or corporate secretaryship or computer science. So that is called as what? Nominal scale. The next one is ordinal scale. If you want to know the consumer preferences towards a particular brand product, if you want to rank the consumer preferences towards a particular brand, you can adapt the ordinal scale. Okay, so for example, here I have given the example. If you want to know whether the consumer belongs to the upper income level of upper level, middle level, and lower level, which one the consumers are preferring, which is called as a ordinal scale. And coming to the third one, interval scale. Okay, the interval scale is very simple. We can say it is a Likert scale. Okay, so here you can frame a Likert scale questions from strongly agree to strongly disagree. That is called as interval scale, and this does not have a zero in that. Okay, starting from 1 to 5, if it is a 5-point scale. If it is a 7-point scale, 1 to 7, or if it is a 9-point scale, 1 to 9. Okay, here it doesn't have a zero in that. That is called as interval scale. And if you are adding a 0 point, then it is called as a ratio scale. Okay, for to know the age of the respondents, you can have a ratio scale. That means less than 5. Less than 5 includes the 0 also. Okay, so that is called as what? Ratio scale. Based on these are the major four scaling techniques, which is nominal, which is a categorical scale, ordinal, which is a ranking scale, interval, which is a scoring scale, ratio, that is also called as a scoring scale. Okay, and these are the different scaling method. Apart from the scaling techniques, these are the different scaling methods. Okay, so what are the scaling methods? We are having a dichotomous scale, which is we are having just two choices, yes or no, male or female, married or unmarried. That is called as dichotomous scale. And the second one is what? Categorical scale. Yes, as I said, if you are going to category the student based on the department, that is called as categorical scale. Likert scale, as you all know, it is a 5-point scale, and semantic differential scale. So the same thing, the 5-point scale, if you are putting it in a 7-point scale, that is called as semantic differential scale. And numerical scale, the same thing, if you are having in a 5 or 7-point scale with bipolar objective, that means extremely satisfied, highly satisfied, or extremely dissatisfied, that is called as numerical scale. And itemized rating scale, the same thing, it is also like a 5 or 7-point scale, which starts from very unlikely to very likely, that is called as itemized rating scale. The next one is fixed or constant sum scale. Okay, this distribute the points across the items, that means the preference for toilet soap attributes. Okay, like this, you can have a fixed or constant sum scale. And then the staple scale, which measures the direction and intensity with a numerical scale. For example, if you want to rate the ability in various characteristics, you can have a staple scale. And finally, graphical rating scale. Okay, so here if you want to place a mark on the graphical line for the respondents, you can have a graphic rating scale. For example, rate your superior, rate your faculty, rate your teacher, like that. On the scale of 1 to 10, on the scale of 1 to 100, you can have a graphical rating scale. And coming to the ranking scale, paired comparison, by comparing one item with the another one, or two items with the another one, that is called as paired comparison. And forced choice comparison, so here ranking objects relative to each other is called as what? Forced choice. For example, rank the magazines by the preferences. You can have your forced choice questions. And then comparative scale, here you can assess the relative usefulness. For example, whether mutual funds or investing in equity shares, which is good. Okay, you can compare both the things, that is called as comparative scale. And the consensus scale, okay, so here it is developed through a expert consensus. Okay, for example, valid or reliability of the items for measuring the concept. Okay, so whether the items collected by the researcher is a valid one or it is a reliable one, to know that you can apply that consensus scale. Okay, so these are the different scaling methods. Whether you can use all the scaling methods in your questionnaire, or according to the same thing, according to the study objective and according to the analysis you are doing and according to the tools you are choosing for data analysis, you can fix the scaling. Whether it may be a dichotomous, it may be a categorical, or you include all the things in a single questionnaire format to do all the analysis. Okay, so this scaling techniques or this scaling methods are framed keeping in mind the data analysis, the hypothesis you are going to frame for your study. Based on that only, here you have to fix the scaling methods and scaling techniques. The next, coming to the after framing the questionnaire and after framing the questionnaire with the help of the scaling techniques and scaling methods, the next step, you have to determine the population and sample size to collect the data from the respondents. Then what is called population? As you all know, the entire group of interest for investigation is called as a population. For example, if you're doing a study in a IBM, okay, Chennai means all employees working at IBM, they are called as the population. Then what is called element? A single member of the population. Each individual, that means each employee working at IBM is a element. And population frame, a list of all elements in the population used to draw the sample. The same thing, all the employees working in IBM, registered and working in IBM Chennai, they are called as the population frame. Then sample. So here we are not going to collect the data from all the employees working in IBM. We are going to select a few employees. Okay, so that is called as what? A subset of the population selected for the study. For example, 100 employees from the IBM population. Okay, subject. So what is called subject? A single member of the sample. For example, each of the 100 employees in a sample is called as a subject. Okay, and so here the population is the entire group, and from that population you are going to select a sample size to do a study, and finally we are going to generalize it into the entire population. Okay, and to do that we have to know the sampling technique, and before that we have to know the sample size. Okay, so here I have given the 100 sample. Just like that, we couldn't able to choose the 100 samples. So based on the population, based on the based on the population, whether it is a known population or whether it is a unknown population, we have to choose the sample size. So here, if it is a known population, means this is the formula to be used by the researcher to know the sample size of the study. Okay, and if it is a unknown population, this is the formula which has to be used by the researcher to fix the sample size of the study. Okay, so for known population, there is a formula, and based on this formula you can frame or can choose the sample size. And for unknown population also, there is a, this alone is not a formula, there are so many formulas there, and this is a simplified one I have given here with an example. Okay, the next one, after choosing the sample size, so based on if it is a known population, we are applying the formula and we are choosing the sample size. If it is a unknown population, there also we are applying the formula and we are choosing the sample size. And after fixing the sample size, what technique to be used by the researcher to collect the data? So that technique is called as a sampling technique. So if your sample size is 100, means if your study area is IBA, means just like that we can collect the data from the 100 employees. That is not so. Here we have to choose a proper sampling technique to collect data from the respondents. Okay, so here, so it is, since it is often impractical to collect data from the entire population, so here we are going to choose a sample size and we are going to apply the sampling technique to make inferences about the whole population based on the data collected from the sample. Okay, then what is sampling technique? It refers to the method used to select a subset of individuals or items from a larger population for the purpose of conducting the research. Okay, so again, so here also, if it is a known population, we have to apply any one of the sampling techniques from the probability sampling. If it is an unknown population, here we have to apply any one of the sampling techniques from the non-probability sampling. Okay, yes. So these are the different types of sampling technique. If it is a probability sampling, means here you have 4 choices. One is simple random sampling. The second one is systematic sampling, stratified sampling, and cluster sampling. So what is simple random sampling? Each member has an equal chance of selection is called as what? Simple random sampling. The example I have given here, the drawing names from a hat to select 10 students from the class of 30 for a survey. So that is called as, this is a very simple method and anyone can use this simple random sampling. And systematic sampling. Okay, so here if you are choosing every 5th student from the enrollment list of 100 students, that is called as what? Systematic sampling. And going in an advanced manner and fixing the sampling technique in a well-framed manner, means you can go for a stratified sampling. Okay, so dividing the university student population by major and sampling 20 students from each major. So this is a well-tuned one, which is called as a stratified sampling. And coming to the last one, cluster sampling. So randomly selecting 3 classrooms from a school and surveying all the students is called as what? Cluster sampling. Okay, so these are the different types of probability sampling. So for your study, which is apt for you and which is easy for you, you can choose any one of the probability sampling if your population is a known one. And if your population is a unknown one, which means if you are collecting the data from the customers, if you are collecting the data from the public, and if your population is a known one, means if you are collecting the data from a particular company, particular school, that is a known population. And if you are collecting the data from the customers in a public, that is a unknown population. So if you are going for a unknown population, if a study is based on the unknown population, means you can use any one of the sampling technique, which is a convenient sampling, judgmental sampling, snowball sampling, or quota sampling. Okay, so what is convenient sampling? So many of them prefer to have a convenient sampling because it's easy for the researcher to collect data from the respondents. Okay, selecting the individuals who are earliest to reach, that is convenience for the researcher, that is convenient sampling. And judgmental sampling, okay, so here, selecting the participants based on the researcher's judgment is called as what? Judgmental sampling. So here, the researchers select the top industry experts for interviewing on a new technology because they can know what the solution to be given. They can know the answer for that. So that is called as what? Judgmental sampling. The next one is snowball sampling. In a study on support groups, initial participants refer to others who are also in a support groups is called as a snowball sampling. And finally, quota sampling, just interviewing a 40 men and 40 women to ensure the gender balance is called as a quota sampling. Okay, so like this, based on your study, you have to fix the which sampling technique we have to use, and based on the probability, that means known population or unknown population your studies. And next one, after collecting the data based on the sampling technique, the next one is hypothesis setting. Okay, so here this hypothesis setting should correlate with, should align with the objectives of the study. This is the one which is asked by your panel members, okay, or in your IOS examination. That means whether you are aligning your objective with the hypothesis setting. Okay, please explain how the objectives are aligned with the hypothesis setting. Okay, so framing hypothesis is also a very important part in the research methodology, because based on this hypothesis setting only you are going to fix the tools which you are going to analyze, and finally the solutions will be given based on the hypothesis setting. Okay, so here the hypothesis or the predictions or assumptions made about the outcome of the study based on a prior knowledge or theory. A hypothesis provides a direction for the research and helps in testing the relationship between the variables. Okay, so usually, as you all know, there are two types of hypothesis which is well known to everyone, which is null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. So what is null hypothesis? There is no significant relationship between the two variables is called as a null hypothesis. Then there is a relationship between the two variables, the variables you are choosing, whether it may be an independent and dependent variable. Okay, so that is called as alternative hypothesis. Okay, so if the result you are giving, there is no relationship between the two variables, but actually it is not a true one. Okay, that is called as what? Type 1 error. Okay, and what is type 2 error? This occurs when null hypothesis is not rejected, when it is actually has to reject, how to reject, supposed to reject. That is called as a type 2 error. So this kind of error will happen in the study. Okay, so here, because based on the data collection, based on the reliability and validity of the data collection, you are going to give, you are going to analyze with the tools, and you are going to give the solutions. Okay, so this type 1 error and type 2 error is truly based on the data which you are collecting, whether it is an accurate one or whether it is a non-accurate one. Okay, so here these are the other types of hypothesis. As you all know, the first one, as I said, null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis. The next one is directional and non-directional hypothesis. Okay, so what is directional hypothesis? Okay, this suggests the effect or relationship between the variables occurs in a specific direction, whether it is a positive or negative direction. For example, increase in the price of the product will affect the increase in the sales. Okay, so here, if you are increasing the price of the product, in what way it affects? Okay, that is called as directional study. If the sales are if the price are increasing, the sales are decreasing. So that is called as directional hypothesis. Then what is non-directional hypothesis? It indicates the relationship between the variables, but does not specifically the direction, is called as a non-directional hypothesis. Okay, for example, there is no relationship between the sleep quality and work performance. Okay, the sleep quality is totally different, the work performance is totally different. If you are sleeping in a proper way in night, and if your work performance is, whether your work performance is increased or not. So this is called as what? The non-directional hypothesis. Anyway, these two are related one. In what way? Which is not related in a direct way. Okay, that is called as non-directional hypothesis. And the next one is simple hypothesis. It indicates a relationship between the variables, but it's not specifically sorry it involves a relationship between the two variables. One independent and one dependent is called as a simple hypothesis. Example, eating more vegetables leads to lowest cholesterol levels. That is called as a simple hypothesis. The next one is a very complex hypothesis. Okay, the name itself is a both diet and exercises impact the body weight. Okay, that means the diet and exercises, whether it impacts the BMI of an individual, the cholesterol level of an individual. Finding this is a complex one, but the previous one, the simple hypothesis, eating more vegetables leads to lower cholesterol, which is a simple one, that is called as a simple hypothesis. But complex means you are taking two or three or more than two factors to find out the impact of the dependent variable, whether it's impact on the dependent variable. That is a complex hypothesis. The next one is what? Associative hypothesis. So here you are going to find out the association between the two variables. One is a independent variable and another one is a dependent variable. Okay, so associated based on whether the gender is associated with the employee's performance, whether the age is associated with the employee's performance. That is called as associative hypothesis. And then the next one is causal hypothesis, to know the cause and effect of the two variables. For example, whether the salary impact or cause, salary is a cause, whether it affects the employee's job satisfaction. That is called as a causal hypothesis. And finally, statistical hypothesis. Here it involves so many mathematical expressions to be tested with statistical methods, to know the movements, to know the trends, to know the volatility in the stock market. You can use the statistical hypothesis. Okay, so these are the different types of hypothesis that is used in the study. Okay, and after framing the hypothesis, okay, framing the hypothesis, which is nothing but there is no significant relationship between the two variables. There is a significant relationship between the two variables. There is no association between the two variables. There is no impact of one variable on the another variable. So like that, you have to frame the hypothesis, and after framing the hypothesis, based on the hypothesis framed, you have to analyze the data, which is called as data analysis. So it is the process of systematically applying the statistical and logical techniques to evaluate, interpret and present data, is called as a data analysis. Here there are so many data analysis are there, and now the people are using the SPSS and AMOS and confirmatory factor analysis to find out the accurate results. Okay, so here the data analysis is divided into 5. One is descriptive analysis, which is a very simple one to find out the mean, median, mode and percentage of the collected data. And inferential analysis, here you are going to testing the hypothesis framed, which is earlier. Okay, already we have framed the hypothesis. To test the hypothesis, here you are going to use the inferential analysis. And diagnostic analysis, which explains why something happened by analyzing the patterns or relationship, is called as a diagnostic analysis. And predictive analysis, so by using the historical data to forecast the future outcomes, is called as a predictive analysis, which is a trend analysis, the regression models. Okay, so based on the previous students' academic performance, what will be the future academic performance of the students. So to do that, you can use the predictive analysis. And prescriptive analysis recommends actions based on the analysis to optimize the outcomes. So here the decision tree, the optimization algorithms are used as a prescriptive analysis. So to take a proper decision, based on the 2 factors or 3 factors, you can use the prescriptive analysis. So these are the different types of analysis. While fixing the data analysis itself, you have to fix the tools which is used for data analysis. The first one is frequencies. It's a very simple one. As you all know, to quantify how values or categories occur in the data set, helping to summarize and understand the distribution of data, you can use the frequencies. So usually in a dissertation, in a thesis, or in a study, the frequencies are used to know the what is that? Yes, sir. The socio-economic factors of the individuals. That means how many males are there in a group, how many females are there in a group, what is the age level, the chosen majority of the groups or belongs to which age group, majority of the customers or belongs to which income level. To know that, we can apply that frequencies. The next one is descriptive strategies. So this descriptive strategies, which is nothing but the mean, median, mode, which are used to find out the most significant factor in a most significant statement in each factor, we can use the descriptive statistics. For example, so factors influencing the consumer buying behavior. So to know that, you have framed a lot of questions. Okay, in that questions, which statement, which question impacts the consumer behavior towards a particular brand, that is called as descriptive statistics. And then t-test. Okay, so this t-test is used to study the significant difference between the independent and dependent variables. So here the independent variable should be a dichotomous variable, which is a two-scaled variables. That means the gender, you can take gender, male, female, marital status, married, unmarried. Okay, so which is a dichotomous scaled variable. A dependent variable should be a Likert scale variable. Okay, to with that variable, you can conduct a t-test. And coming to the next one-way analysis of variables, which is ANOVA, to study the significant difference between one independent. Here the one independent will be a more than two categorical scaled variables and one dependent variable. You can apply the ANOVA test. And chi-square test, very simple test, which is used to find out the significant association between the two variables. So here the one variable should be an independent variable, another one is a dependent variable. Okay, so here the independent variable should be a nominally scaled variable. And the next one is bivariate correlation. So if your variables, two variables are in your Likert scale variables, you can go for a correlation, which is to find out the significant relationship between the two variables. We can use the correlation. For example, to know the students, to know the teaching methodology with the student performance, you can use the correlation variables. Okay, and the next one is multiple regression. To know the cause and effect relationship, the impact of one factor on the one variable on the another variable, you can go for a multiple regression. And Friedman test. Okay, so if you want to rank the data, if you want to know the consumer preferences to a particular brand, ranking preferences, you can go for a Friedman test. And then structural equation structural equation modeling. Okay, to find the fitness of the data. That means we have framed the we have given the theoretical framework. Whether the theoretical framework we have given, that means the theoretical framework is given based on the independent, dependent, moderator, or whatever the variables you have chosen. You are framing the theoretical frame. You are giving a theoretical frame, which is a conceptual study. Okay, the conceptual framework of the study. So the theoretically you have framed the conceptual framework, whether it is accurately a fitness one. That means to know the fitness of data and to estimate the relationship between the independent and dependent variables, which is framed as a conceptual study, conceptual framework. Whether it is a fit one, you have to go for a structural equation modeling. And factor analysis, to reduce a large set of variables into a underlying factors or dimensions, you can go for a factor analysis. And finally, cluster analysis, to group a similar data points into cluster, you can go for a cluster analysis. So these are the tools, various tools. Apart from that, so many tools are there in the SPSS. You can do a correspondence analysis, and you can do a Sobel test with a moderator variable. Okay, so and you can go for a Walter Duncan test. So many tests are there. So learn SPSS first, and then choose the tools which is used for the data analysis. Okay, so this is the overview of research methodology. So this research methodology, Yes. So this research methodology covers starting from the observation till choosing the tools for a data analysis. And after choosing the tools, and you are going to collect the data, and you are going to enter the data in the Excel or in the SPSS, and you are going to analyze the data, and you are going to give interpretation for your analysis, and you are going to write the findings, suggestions, and conclusion. Okay. So this research methodology part is very, very important for a researcher to know, to understand the steps or the systematic sequential manner, the way they have to conduct the research. Okay, thank you all.
That was a wonderful session, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving me this wonderful opportunity, ma'am. Because I have got the opportunity to explain the entire part of the research methodology.
Yes, ma'am. Really, it would be an eye opener for all the research scholars, even for the academicians too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, ma'am. Now, Pratiksha will present vote of thanks.
Good evening to one and all present here. As we mark as we mark the end of today's session, I extend my heartfelt thanks to Dr. M. Kaveri ma'am, Department of Commerce, Corporate Secretaryship, AIM Jain College. Your presence in this enlightening occasion and your perception was truly valuable. I extend my cordial gratitude to our program coordinator, Dr. V. Deepa ma'am, for instigating this conclave. I thank our HOD, Dr. Chitra Srinivasan ma'am, VP and academic sirs, and our Dean sir for their support in organizing this interesting 3 weeks core research methodology course. And finally, I thank all faculties for with their involvement. This session is a grand success once again. Thank you for all your presence and dedication today. Thank you, ma'am.
Pratiksha, ma'am, can you post the feedback link?
Yes, ma'am.
So, dear participants, you are requested to see the feedback link that has been posted in the chat box. Please fill the feedback link.
Ma'am, shall we exit the meeting, ma'am?
Ma'am, one second. Deepa ma'am is there.
Hello, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am, we shall leave the
Yes, ma'am.
studio. Thank
Yeah,
you so much
thank you.
for participating, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. Ma'am, it was a really wonderful section, ma'am.
Ma'am, shall I exit the meeting now?
Yeah, ma'am, sure, ma'am. Ma'am,
Thank you so much.
it was a wonderful session, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Yeah, being a limited time, I couldn't able to explain in in-depth manner. Yeah, that is the thing. Because you have given only 1 hour for me.
You almost so
So,
you almost all covered all the topics, ma'am.
yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yeah, if
Thank
we can have another session also, ma'am, by explaining about the
Yes.
SPSS in practical way. I have an idea to
Okay,
do
ma'am.
that also. Yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Sure, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am.